Rev up your engines!
Well, with this pandemic and the shortage of cars, hey, it turns out now that even your 100,000-mile car can be worth serious money. And I see it because the other day, a guy bought me a really nice Toyota from a Toyota dealership, right? Thing had 93,000 miles on it. Guess what they're charging for it? $24,500. It was a RAV4. It's a lot of money for a car with 93,000 miles, but that's what's happening these days. My oldest son bought a new van. He wanted all-wheel drive, the hybrid version, and everything for using around Boston, right? And they had like a 5-year-old RAV4. Well, guess what? They traded the RAV4 in for more money than they'd paid for it 3 years previously. People are giving money for cars. And unfortunately, if you're going to have to buy a used car, you're going to have to pay more money for it. So, like I've been saying for a long time, if you don't have to buy a car, don't buy it. You might say, oh, my car, it's getting a little bit old. If it still runs good, leave it. The other day, I checked out a Mazda CX-7. Customer bought it years ago used. Now it had like 130,000 miles on it. They said, should we keep it or get rid of it? So the paint's coming off the bumper. I said, get some spray paint. Make the rest of it black so it's not sticking out so bad. It's on the bottom anyways. The vehicle checked out to be fine. It was running at like 99% efficiency. Don't. If you don't have to, don't buy a used car now. It's not the time to buy them. I'll give you an example. The average car now with 100,000 miles costs $16,489. Last year it was $12,000. And even that, as far as I'm concerned, is too much because I'm cheap. But still, it shows 31% increase in the price for high mileage cars with no guarantees. But of course, on the other hand, if you're looking at Toyotas, Hondas that can go 3, 4, 500,000 miles, yeah, you can get a lot of life out of them. Listen to Scotty. Do not go buy a Fiat Chrysler Stellantis car that's got 100,000 miles on it for $24,000. That would be foolhardy. At least pick a good one if you have to buy it. As they say, the rising tide raises all boats. Well, the rising prices of used car raises the crappy ones too. Just don't get stuck with a crappy one. Well, you think things are bad with Fords with the chip shortage? Well, a freight train that was carrying Ford F-150 pickups derailed in Missouri and destroyed a bunch of them. Luckily, there weren't any injuries, but the trucks, which of course were in trains that all got smashed in the side, they pretty much say they're all going to be totaled. The train wrecks are not the greatest things in the world for anything, people or trucks. Now, as of last week, Ford already had 60,000 trucks that were incomplete because of the chip shortage, and now only dozens in this case. It wasn't all that many, but dozens of the F-150 got wiped out when the train got wrecked and fell off the tracks. Now, with this struggle that they're having with the chips, Ford's now thinking about something different. They're thinking about doing more cars and trucks to order. So instead of having them sitting around at the showroom floors, nobody's buying the end of the year, they got to have sales because nobody wanted that particular one. They want to do order to buy, like a lot of the manufacturers do. Mini's been doing that for a long time. They tell people, what kind of a Mini do you want? There's like 1,000 different varieties. You make it, they build it for you, and then you get it. Ford's starting to look at that too, but they're a massive company making lots of vehicles, and I could see the logistics in that would be a complete screw up. I don't think it would be a smart idea for them. They did mass production for a reason, and if you start going the opposite direction, I could see all kinds of problems occurring. I mean, let's face it. You see a truck, there it is, you want it, you get it. Do you really want a chance that, oh, well, I'm ordering one less? Did they put on what I ordered? You could see so many mistakes would be making down the chain. I don't think that's such a good idea. I think a better idea is perhaps get your supply chain better. Do like Henry Ford did in the beginning. Make most of the stuff yourself. Don't buy it from other companies and then whine when something goes wrong because your chips are coming from overseas and you don't have any. That makes a lot more sense than doing, oh, we're going to be custom boutique now. I don't think that's such a smart idea for a company that makes millions of cars. I don't think that's smart at all. Well, we all know GM's made lots of mistakes over the years. Well, it turns out that GM's already paid out $800 million alone in recalls for the Chevy Bolt. And that was supposed to be their competitor to Tesla, right? The idea that GM is getting extremely big into electric cars kind of scares me because everything they've done with electric cars so far has been a miserable failure. What makes them think all of a sudden they're going to have a big turnaround? I don't see it myself. itself. Now, of course, there were bigger recalls. That ignition switch one that GM held for years was an even bigger recall than that. I mean, theoretically, their future is electric cars. Well, the future's looking pretty dim. When I was young, people had British cars and British motorcycles, and they called Lucas, who made their electronics, the Prince of Darkness, because the lights would go out while you're driving down the road because the electronics weren't very good. So I wouldn't put my money on an English electric car either, but I certainly wouldn't buy a GM one unless they could prove that they make them correctly and not have all kinds of problems with them. I mean, let's face it, their track record isn't very good, and it's not like, well, they learn from their mistakes. They don't seem to be learning much from their mistakes. Andrew, pretty quick, he says, I'm shorting oil. He means on the stock market. It's a strange feeling as a motorist to make money as well as have the oil price go down at the same time. I think I've cracked it. Well, let me warn you something here. I spent 43 years in Houston, Texas, had tons of customers deep in the oil business. That oil business can turn on a dime. You think you got it figured out? A storm comes to the Gulf, the price goes up. The Arabs do something, the price goes up. Electric cars fail, the price goes up. So be very careful. Shorting oil, well, you may end up with no money at all. Be very careful with that. U2 says, Scotty, should I leave my manual transmission in first or reverse gear when parking on a steep hill? Does it make any difference? You're better in first gear because that's going the opposite flow. Reverse is going the other way. Now, of course, if you were parking backwards on a hill, yeah, then you'd be better in reverse. But if you got it with the front pointed up in the air and the rear is pointed down, leave it in first gear. But like I say, if it's backwards and the front of the car's pointed down, yeah, then put it in reverse. You want to go the opposite direction, so you go in the opposite way, and there's a little bit more friction that way. But still, no matter what you do, put your emergency brake on too. Vladimir Putin says, Scotty, is the 1.8 Chevy Cruze a good car? Well, the Russians want to know, huh? No, it's a rolling pile of junk. They're horrible cars. I had a customer that put a Mickey Mouse sticker on the back. I said, what's that about? He says, it's a Mickey Mouse car. It's already been through 3 automatic transmissions. It's junk, and I want to tell the world they wouldn't buy it back. GM wouldn't buy it back at a lemon, but they gave him like $3,000. We paid a lot for the car. And to only get $3,000 back and saying, you keep the car, but we'll give you $3,000, yeah, that's an insult. So don't buy one. ATS says, Scotty, is it worth buying a brand new 2022 Acura MDX for $55,000 if I keep it forever? Well, if you are a person that keeps car forever, that is not a bad new car to buy. The history of the Acuras, they're just fancy Hondas, has proven them to last hundreds of thousands of miles. Go a long time. Hardly have any problems at all. Do oil changes, change the coolant once every 6-7 years. There's not much maintenance on them either. You take care of it, yes, they can basically last a really long time. They're well-made cars. Japanese are just good at making cars. Joe Casher says, I got a weird question. Would problems occur if the in-shaft bearing has too much free play in the hydraulic clutch system? Yes, because the input shaft is the main shaft of the transmission where the power goes through. And if the bearing is wobbling around, it's going to wear out faster. You ask if it has too much free play in a hydraulic clutch system. Well, that per se wasn't going to bother it because the play is just up and down. It makes it go back and forth. It's not side to side. But let's say you got a worn out clutch or a throwout bearing that's worn concentrically, so it's off center now, going back and forth. Well, yeah, that will wear it out. You got problems with your clutch, fix it sooner than later because clutches don't cost that much money. If you ruin the bearing on your input shaft, then you're going to have to rebuild the whole tranny, and that's another ballpark entirely. It costs a fortune to do that. Scott Diamond 21 says, I have a cruise control problem. I got an 05 Matrix. The cruise control light comes on but won't engage. I found what looks like a brake light switch pad on a floorboard. Where does it fit? The Japanese do some crazy stuff with their brake lights. You get an American car, you got a brake pedal you step on, and the brake arm comes down, and the arm is solid steel. It pushes the button on the brake light. When you step, it opens, the brake lights go on, you pick it up, the brake lights go up. Well, the Japanese work the same way, but for some bizarre reason, that solid steel pedal assembly has a hole in it where the brake light switch goes. In that hole, there's a piece that fits inside the hole to bumper against the switch. I don't know, I guess they figured metal would wear it out too fast, so they got a little plastic rubber part that fits in the hole. Yours fell out of the hole. Well, it fell out of the hole because it's broken. What I do, and then generally you never have a problem again. I like JB Weld Quick. It's a 2-tube epoxy. It dries in 5 minutes. I mix up a little bit of it. I stick it on that pad. I glue it back onto the brake pedal, And I do it like anytime you want. Night's better though, because then you're not using the car. Do it before you go to bed. And then in the morning, even though it dries in 5 minutes, it cures in like 4 hours. So you can wait if you want. Then glue it on and it'll stay there forever. It won't come out anymore. Originally, it's stuck in through a little grommet that fits and pops, and then that breaks and it won't stay. But you can use the JB Weld and glue it back on. Or sometimes if that part is broken in half or something, I just get a piece of plastic and I cut it out and I JB Weld that over the hole and then never have another problem again. I see that all the time. Kind of crazy thing the Japanese do, but I mean, hey, it's not that big of a deal to glue another piece in. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.